Long ago, before paper learned how to whisper and before books learned how to hold their breath, the world was stitched together by stories spun from silk and memory. Yes, child, before ink found its courage, we had the spiders. And before the spiders wove their webs into corners, they wove wisdom into the hearts of women, especially the women who survived storms, crossings, losses, and rebirths, the ones we now call the daughters of the diaspora. Back then, folks didn't gather around televisions or scroll bright screens. No, they gathered around firelight, moonlight, or the sound of a woman clearing her throat before she began a tale. And the teller was always a woman who knew the value of secrecy, timing, and the long, slow smile of someone who has lived enough life to laugh at it. That, my dear, is how Aunt Nancy earned her place. Not as a goddess, though some would swear she is one. Not as a trickster, though she outtricks them all. But as a weaver, the keeper of stories too clever to die, too soft to be shouted, too wise to be wasted. She carried stories the way other women carried babies, close to the body, warmed by the heart, protected by instinct. And each thread she spun, whether with humor, mischief, or straight-faced truth, was meant to teach something without ever sounding like a lecture. That's the way of spider wisdom. It doesn't force, it entangles. And those diaspora women, surviving plantations, ports, new lands, and lost languages, they learned early that humor could save you, cunning could shield you, and stories could guide you. So they sat close to Aunt Nancy, letting the sound of silk and memory roll over them like a lullaby sharpened with a razor's edge. Because the world was hard, but the stories were soft, and in the softness, strength gathered. So when I tell you that Aunt Nancy was there before books, I mean she lived in the breath of women, the beating of drums, the hush before dawn. She was the archive and the oracle, keeping everything safe inside a web that stretched across oceans. And even now, when you hear a whisper of truth dressed up like a joke, that's her silk brushing your cheek. Now listen close, because this is where the silk gets sticky. Spider wisdom was never about scaring people. It was about surviving them. See, the spider don't have claws like a lion or the wings of an eagle. She survives through mind, patience, and the kind of cleverness that lets her turn a single thread into a whole universe. Diaspora women saw themselves in that. When the world tried to break them, they learned to laugh. But that laughter wasn't just noise. No, it was a shield. Humor kept the heart from hardening. Cunning kept the spirit from starving. And both were lessons they learned watching Aunt Nancy play tricks on the greedy, the arrogant, the bullies of the world. She'd say, "If you can't fight a giant, make him trip. If you can't lift a stone, make someone believe it's haunted. And if you can't escape a trap, turn it into a home until the trapper gets confused and leaves." That's how Black women survived centuries. When they were forbidden to speak their languages, they hid meanings inside lullabies. When they were punished for knowing too much, they pretended to know nothing and learned everything. When they were mocked, they pretended not to care, but oh, they watched, they listened, they remembered. That is spider wisdom, the art of making intelligence look harmless and danger look like it belongs to someone else. Aunt Nancy's stories traveled from Africa to the Caribbean to the American South to modern cities where women still hum under their breath when they think too hard. Her humor healed wounds no medicine could touch. Her cunning taught them how to maneuver men, masters, laws, and sometimes even their own fears. And the women passed these lessons down. Never show your full hand. Watch without being seen. Let them underestimate you. Smile when you strike. Use stories as a net. They'll walk into it willingly. That's why Aunt Nancy always says, a smart woman don't need strength. She needs timing. A diaspora woman can turn a whisper into a warning, a joke into a judgment, a story into a survival guide. And every silk-threaded tale carries the same hidden truth. A wise woman is never truly powerless. You might wonder, child, why Aunt Nancy does not give all her stories at once, why she drops them little by little, like pearls along a path or crumbs left for someone clever enough to follow. Well, I'll tell you a secret wrapped in laughter. Wisdom given too fast becomes noise, but wisdom given slowly becomes power. Aunt Nancy knows the mind must digest truth, not swallow it whole. A weekly tale lets the listener live with the lesson, turn it over, argue with it, test it, laugh at it, cry over it, and finally wear it like a second skin. Too much truth at once can overwhelm, but one story a week? That's how you change a life without breaking it. Each tale she brings is a silk thread, soft, shining, but strong enough to hold the weight of experience. When you follow her stories week by week, you are weaving your own web of understanding, discernment, intuition, and strength. And she knows modern women, diaspora daughters with heavy hearts and brilliant minds, don't always have time for a whole sermon, but they have time for a lesson tucked inside a laugh, a warning disguised as a joke, a blessing hidden in a trick, a truth sweetened with humor. Aunt Nancy teaches in doses because growth happens in seasons. One week she might teach you how to leave a man gently. The next week, how to leave a man loudly. Another week, how to recognize danger before it smiles at you. Another, how to claim your joy without apology. Each tale has its own rhythm, its own purpose, its own medicine. Some will sting, some will soothe, some will challenge, all will transform. And why weekly? Because that mirrors the drumbeat of life. 7 days, one cycle of rising, falling, learning, forgetting, remembering, becoming. 7 days between stories gives the heart time to breathe and the mind time to grow. So Aunt Nancy returns every week like a grandmother knocking on your spirit.